Come and listen in to the radio station where the mighty hosts of heaven sing. Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on. Turn your radio on. If you want to hear the songs of Zion coming from the land of endless spring, get in touch with God.
Get in touch with God.
Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on.
And listen to the music in the air. Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on.
Heaven's glory share, heaven's glory share. Turn your lights down low.
Turn your lights down low.
And listen to the Master's radio. Get in touch with God.
Get in touch with God. Turn your radio on. Turn your radio on.
Come and listen in to the Gloryland chorus. Listen to the glad hosannas roll. Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on.
Turn your radio on. Turn your radio on. Get a little taste of love eternal. Get a little heaven in your soul. Get in touch with God.
Get in touch with God.
Turn your radio on. Turn your radio on. Turn your radio on.
Ladies and gentlemen, turn your radio on.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're back. I'm back. We're back. I'm back. It's back. He, she, and it are back. There, I just did all the conjugation I possibly could. Let's turn that down just a bit. So, I can't tell you how glad I am to be back. You know, I love Las Vegas, but I like being in this studio a hell of a lot better. So let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. You can belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. You know what? I think Flackbait, no, I know Flackbait, is going to be a bartender tonight. He pulls with the best of them, and the lava lamp, as you can see to my left, your right, is in fact lighted. We don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law, all of that. We have it here at the Saloon. We talk about it all here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred, the speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the damn toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. But here's one interesting point. Oh, wait, BZ, you may be saying, there's only one interesting point tonight? No, there is more than one interesting point. And that's this. There's a particular individual who happens to be on the phone right now, immediately, and perhaps it's someone that maybe you hadn't anticipated. Well, if you'd been listening in chat, if you'd been watching chat, if you'd been in chat at shrmedia.com or High Plains Pundit Radio. Oh, wait a minute. Talking about High Plains Pundit Radio, who is this that we have on the line? Boy, can I ever. I can hear you very loud and very clear. How about you? Listen, here's the funny thing. Okay, we just got back from Freedom Fest. Those two miscreants got to fly on a nice airplane, and old BZ here had to drive his Kraut car to and from Las Vegas in the heat. Okay, it has great air conditioning. Thank you very much. But the funny thing is, throughout all of that, and despite all of that, here we are, in the station tonight, in the belly of the beast, broadcasting behind enemy lines, in occupied Fornicalia, about 3 miles away from what I term the Bill Mill in Sacramento, in fact, inside the belly of the beast. We have none other than Dan Butcher, the High Plains Pundit, and I have to tell you, Dan, it is abso-damn-lutely wonderful to hear you here. It's great to have you, sir. Well, he's already signed one shameless contract, but you know the funny thing is, I think it's God. When did I do my first show? I think my first show wasn't till January. I'd sort of been a hanging honor in Sackheads Radio, but I didn't actually get to. Oh damn! I'm going to have to wait until January to renew my shameless contract. Damn me for that. Wait, Dan, is there something expressed or implied in that statement? I really wouldn't know. I guess you had to be there at the meet. Anyway, I don't know anything about that. No matter what you're saying, I have to say it is absolutely wonderful, 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 with a capital W, to see you back. It's absolutely stellar. And, well, number one, you sound absolutely fabulous. I don't know if anybody has said that or not, but if not, let me be the first. Just one question, and I do know that, in fact, you're going to have to go in not too terribly distant future. We had something important in the Senate, and thank God that you called today, and I thank you again for doing so, because you are the perfect person to bounce this back and forth. There was a particular incident that occurred today in the Senate, and we got really darn close. The Senate Republicans actually voted to move ahead on Obamacare repeal. And the funny thing is, well, let's see, they were split about 50-50, and who broke the vote? Oh, that's right, Vice President Pence. Is it not sad, Dan? How sad is it that it's almost a split 50-50 vote before we can even decide we're going to talk about health care? This is just to talk. This is not to vote on a bill. This is just to talk about health care. Oh, yes. No. Yep. Yep. Bingo. You know, here's the weird thing is, and you have to think of it, well, you don't have to, but I would suggest people think of Obamacare in these terms. Okay, people are saying, well, if you repeal it, you have to replace it. And if you replace it, they have to be concurrent. Well, no, they don't. Number one, just repeal the son of a bitch. And here's why. If you repeal it, if you say, no, I don't want to repeal Obamacare, what you're saying is that, okay, the way it was before Obamacare is worse than Obamacare. So I ask you and everyone else out there, is the way it was worse than Obamacare? Because that's what you're going to get if you repeal it. No Obamacare, no ACA. And I submit, no. So that's why those who say, oh, you can't repeal it without replacing it, oh, bull. Because what you're going to get is what you had before. And that is to say, a lot of people covered by policies that they liked. Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. Yes, exactly. Bingo. It's nothing. What it is, Dan, is the Cloward Piven system writ large. And that's this. What you do is you tax the system to its ultimate, where it has no other alternative. You make so many damn demands on the system, where it has no other alternative but to collapse under its own weight. Then, upon collapse, precisely as you point out, then miraculously angels flock in, and you hear bells, and the lights from heaven come down, and then all will be well as the government steps in and makes your healthcare wonderful, and then you have many more wonderful little Charlie God situations. Isn't that great? Yep. Dan. It's insanity. Yep. They signed on. I'm sorry. I should specify. The United Kingdom signed a treaty held from Brussels, which said essentially the state does in fact get control, ultimate control of what happens to your health care. Say what you will about Sarah Palin, and I have enough negative things, thank you very much, to say about Sarah Palin, but she was absolutely spot on when she said, hey, do you care for death panels? Keep going in that direction. Guess what you've got with Charlie God? You have people that are absolutely, completely uninvolved, making decisions from on high with the health care of an infant. One of the first persons that any logical thinking, emotional, true human being would say, you know what, let's really try to save this child. When in fact, they decided, again from on high, that they were not going to give as many options as they possibly could for them to even leave the country to seek medical assistance from the United States and or other countries. That's insane. That's insane. That's a death panel. If you're going to kill infants in that fashion, well, hell, I'm sure as shit gone. And then guess what? Everybody gets older, and you and you and me and you will all be there one day, including the architects of the ACA. Oh, but wait, Dan, wasn't it the architects themselves that said we don't have to abide by Obamacare? Oh, and while we're at it, let's excuse some other people who contributed to Obama. That would be General Electric. That would be Tesla. That would be other people that contributed to the Obama campaign. Odd. Isn't that odd? True. Absolutely true. But it's an infant. It's an infant. Why not? Yes. Oh, it, yeah. Oh, But Dan, it goes even further than that, because you have to do what I call the logical extension. And the logical extension is this. What happens, not when, but if we break the human genome, and it's found out that you can find in the womb male, female, and then you can discover all the genetic defects that that particular infant has. There's going to be someone somewhere, ladies and gentlemen, who's going to determine at that age whether you can carry that child to term, because it will be determined. It's a fiscal judgment then at that point. It will be like Ford weighing whether or not we're going to replace the gas tanks in the Pinto, because it turns out that it's actually cheaper to let people die than it is to change the gas tanks themselves. So it may be cheaper to just let your infants die and not allow them to come to term than to prognosticate in the future. Well, you know what? Your child's going to have Downs. And then your child's going to get cancer at the age of 10. Ad nauseum. That's where we're going with single payer. Look to Europe. Do the logical extension. I can see no other future than that. And you, sir? I already saw it, been there, did it, lived through it. 1960s, late 1960s to early 1970. 1970, a book came out by Dr. Paul Ehrlich called The Population Bomb. And in it, he said the world was going to explode. By another 10 years, the world was going to be so overrun by people that basically like Guam, it's just going to tip over. Then, 1976, the film Logan's Run. Anybody remember that particular film? Yes, by the time you... Yeah, but by the time you get to be 20, and then at the age of 30, boom, you're killed, because it's better for civilization that way. And then, of course, don't forget, there's Soylent Green. Soylent Green is people. We have so many people that we put people into dumpsters, and then at the end, you get to splay your arms out in a fountain and say, Soylent Green is people. Keep on this, keep on this. We were given warnings of this in the 60s and the 70s. It didn't turn out in terms of the population bomb. Hello to Paul Ehrlich. And then science fiction already predicted where this is coming. Hey, how about Rahm Emanuel? How about his brother, Ezekiel Emanuel, who says, well, you know, Yeah. By the time you get to a certain age, you're not worthwhile anyway, so, yep, we're going to move you aside. Time to move. Move along. Nothing to see here. Nothing to live for. Wow, that was long. Rod Serling. Yep. This is no theory. Yes. Absolutely. It's occurring. Hello, it's another. These science fiction tales were cautionary tales to wake up, because the people on the left have in fact said, they're coming for you, they're coming for you, they're coming for you. We're going to go to a break. Dan, I have to tell you, thank you very, very much for being here. God bless you, sir. Hope your health continues to be absolutely stellar. I consider it an honor for you to have been here tonight, and I thank you, sir, ever so kindly for the time that you took here in the saloon. Thank you ever so much, folks. That has been Dan Butcher, owner-operator of All Things Fabulous from High Plains Pundit. And, folks, I tell you what, absolutely great to hear Dan. And tell you what, please come right back. Please come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Names are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Catholic, stupid.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplansdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. And despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I have to tell you, quite frankly, it is absolutely wonderful to be back. Now, it wasn't a bad thing to be in Las Vegas. We just came back, all of the Sackheads Clinton and Sackhead Sean, and myself went to Lost Wages, and we had a great time for one full week at the Paris Resort, going to see the 10th anniversary of Freedom Fest. And it's the exact same thing that Ken was promoting, and we've been promoting here, and Sackheads has been promoting, SHR been promoting, High Plains Pundit, etc. And I'm still back at Dan appearing on the show. That was absolutely... Wait. Where's my manners? Well, it must have gone into that room over there. So, Manners, come on over here. I'd like to say hello to everybody in chat. I just got focused like a laser beam just for a moment. So I have to say thank you to White Mamba in chat. Thanks to Mike in chat. Thanks to the unpleasant blind guy who isn't. Yes, he's blind, but he's not unpleasant. Dave Milner. Of course, HP Pundit himself, Dan Butcher. We have Arkog. We have Mary Brockman. And yes, of course, she's sitting in a chair. Embroidered on the back of the chair is her name, and everyone knows by now to stay far away from that particular chair, because Flackbait, who is the bartender tonight, is also the bouncer, and will make sure that he will bounce you basically out of that chair. Freedom Fest. I have to tell you, I've been completely rejuvenated from Freedom Fest. Having gone there and seen all the people that we saw, gotten the interviews that we acquired, it was absolutely marvelous. We happened to get two particular very, very important, what I consider to be sort of semi-coups. We spoke to John Stossel, and then we spoke to Larry Elder on the last day, Saturday, and basically it was a half day. We were in the process of trying to wrap up our equipment, and we saw, oh, there comes Larry Elder. And he comes and he sits and he speaks to the people in the booth right next to us. That was from Ricochet.com. So Clint had already left. Sean and I looked at each other and went nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You know what? I think we need to go over there. And when he's through, we need to grab Larry Elder and sit down and talk to him. So Larry Elder gets through and he goes right in front of us and he goes to the booth just to the left of us. Now, he talks to them for a little bit. Now, I should care to note that Larry spoke to the people on the right, ricochet maybe about 10 minutes or so. Then he comes over to the people on the left of us, and quite frankly, I couldn't even see who the hell they were. They weren't the people that were originally present when we opened up the booth itself for SHR Media. And he spoke to them because, of course, we're listening. We want to hear what this guy's saying. So we listen, and he's talking to Larry maybe about 7 or 8 minutes or so. And it seems really quiet. And we're thinking, God, is he actually asking Larry Elder questions? Or are they just sort of humming in unison and saying namaste numerous times? Because if that's a conversation, then they must be having a conversation between statues, because I really don't hear much being said. Larry Elder comes over here. Sean had spoken to him and said, hey, come in, sit down. I'm running the board. Sean is on a microphone, and Sean, we have a discussion with Larry Elder where Larry broaches about 104 decibels. He barks out laughs like your basic harbor seal, and he had a damn great time. And we had a damn great time. If you're not on it, you must go to shrmedia.com right now. Okay, not right now, all right, because you're listening to me. But quick like a bunny rabbit when you're through listening to the Berserk Bobcat Saloon here on the SHR Media. Go to shrmedia.com, click on the interview with Larry Elder, and you'll hear Larry Elder bark like a harbor seal. Larry Elder spent over 30 minutes with us, had a great time. We pitched questions at him left and right. He took off his coat, put it down, and that's an indicator that he thinks that he's going to be staying with us for a while. And by God, he did. We had a wonderful, wonderful time. Now, if I do have time myself, I have probably one of the strangest interviews that I think I've ever conducted. I don't want to Bigfoot myself. Maybe I will go ahead and Bigfoot myself anyway. This guy was from the Alinsky Center. Now, the Alinsky Center, yes, it's exactly what you think it is. It's Saul Alinsky. Well, Saul Alinsky passed away in the early 70s. His sons, I believe, are still running the Alinsky Center. Saul Alinsky, if you remember, wrote what I term the far-left, semi-socialist, anarchist book, Rules for Radicals. And it's not unlike the Cloward Piven effect that I mentioned earlier to Dan in terms of, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's tear down the system, overload it with all sorts of crazy shite, and then when it finally collapses under its own weight, we'll sneak in ourselves and rebuild the whole thing under the guise, in the auspices of what we really want the nation to be, the government to be. We want it to rule all. That's what what Saul Alinsky was all about. And I had the most bizarre Purple Planet kind of Zephron discussion with a gentleman from the Alinsky Center who essentially was making the argument that Saul Alinsky wasn't a leftist. No. On the other hand, he was truly a person from the right. Wow, that's a hell of a statement. That's why I went to Freedom Fest, to listen to all sorts of people. And I spoke to there's another gentleman, there's an article that I'm writing up right now about an attorney that I spoke to. And it's just, there were so many concepts that we dealt with under so many people that we spoke to. In Freedom Fest last year, 2016, we had about 3.5 days and got, I think Sean said we got 14 interviews. In 2 days, one complete day and a half less that we had this year where they were active, we got 20 interviews. So we did more with less. One of the reasons for that is, again, this is like out of the Twilight Zone. It rained in Las Vegas. Oh, no, it didn't rain. It came down in a torrential downpour the first day of Freedom Fest. So all the people that were supposed to be there speaking, setting up their booths, etc., were delayed for hours. One particular guy said that he'd been circling Las Vegas for about an hour or two. The pilot said, you know what, we're running out of fuel, so I think we're going to go back to where we came from, which is Phoenix, Arizona. He didn't even make it over here until the late night. Strange stuff going on. So I think Sackheads probably have a few tales to tell you tomorrow, Wednesday night, on the Sackheads radio show. And if I don't get to them tonight, I will have some tales to tell you, certainly, and an interview to play later on, if not tonight, then on Thursday, involving this particular individual named Ralph, which is a great name, from the Alinsky Center, attempting to convince me that the Alinsky Center is right-wing and not left-wing, that they are conservative and not supporting of anarchists whatsoever. That was an incredible interview. So as we already discussed with Dan, a very important thing today, the Senate, the Republicans in the Senate squeaked by 51-50 with the Vice President Mike Pence's vote that they have agreed that all this agreement was just to sit down to discuss, we're going to proceed with health care. This was just a vote to see, do we want to talk about it or not? Well, for fuck's sake, you want to talk about it, unless you don't care about your jobs in 2018. Hello, big bells and whistles, klaxons, etc. Guess what, boys and girls? 435 seats up for bids next year in 2018. Note from BZ to the senators, don't screw us over. For this reason, and I know you have a history, Republicans, GOP. Here's your history. 1928, that was almost the last time that you had all three areas. You had the White House, you had the House, you had the Senate. Then it was decades later, almost 60-70 years later, when the GOP owned the White House under Bush from 2003 to 2006. Under George Bush, yes, the presidency, the House, the Senate held the reins of power, and so after that, we basked in all the wonderful things that particular tempestuous time when the GOP, when the Republicans really held the reins of power, and man, they got some shite done, didn't they? Wait, are you trying to say that they didn't get a lot of shite done? Yeah, that's my point. You have the reins of power now. We gave you the House. We gave you the Senate. We gave you the Oval Office. Now, what are you going to do with it? And we fall back to the standard position, which is, I don't know, the established hacks decide to their imminent peril. You want to keep on with that kind of crap? You're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. We heard about cautionary tales. The cautionary tale is here. 6 months into the Trump presidency, yep, President Trump is in fact the dude with the dead orange cat on his head, and he varies from day to day. But already he's managed to do some good things with us, for us, to us, here in the United States. Yeah, he's a laugh riot every day. Yeah, I'd wish he'd shut the hell up on Twitter. That's kind of a chancy thing to say, depending on, the Trump supporters that you come across these days. So it's all about right now process and the Democrats not standing for anything. But now they have a branding, and it's just right out of Domino's Pizza. You can find out what the hell that is. Here's an interesting story. I haven't heard it mentioned very much, but while going through all the stuff around the Saloon today, and I look at all the newspapers in the Saloon, and I have to brush them off occasionally, here's a story that says this. And it's like, oh, really? Again, you can't write crap like this. Here's the headline. Report. Debbie Wasserman Schultz's IT manager information technology manager, arrested fleeing the country. Are you kidding? Don't you remember the DNC servers were the ones that the FBI purposely, oh wait, I'm not supposed to say that, didn't go into? And this dude was in charge. He's the IT vendor for the DNC. And so they caught him trying to leave the country. Here's the article. Imran Awan, the Pakistani IT vendor of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former chairwoman of the Democrat National Committee, was arrested by the FBI while trying to flee the country today, according to a Fox News reporter. What does that tell you? Any red flags coming up? Is this? It's like this is just one of those little buzzer cushions in your seat when you sit down and gives you a little electric jolt. Fox News Capitol Hill reporter Chad Pergram tweeted about the arrest at Dulles International Airport, which he said stemmed from bank fraud charges. So Chad tweets out, he says, Representative Rep. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, D. Florida, fires IT Imran Awan arrested at Dulles on bank fraud charges. Then he says feds, UCSP, picked up Imran Awan at Dulles Airport last night as he was, quote, trying to leave the country. He has been arraigned, surrendered his passport. Now, according to Pergram, Wasserman Schultz responded to the news by terminating him. Wait, the buttery goodness, are you telling me that until he was arrested, you had every confidence in this guy? Well, why wouldn't you? He's the guy that somehow got the FBI to not look into the servers. Who knows what the hell he did to the servers? Neither does the FBI, because they didn't look either. And only when he got arrested that, oh, well, maybe I need to terminate him. All right. The investigative unit of the Daily Caller News Foundation reported on Monday, yesterday, that Imran Awan and other members of the Awan family were already under investigation by both the FBI and Capitol Police for, quote, seriously, potentially illegal violations on the House IT network, unquote. Woohoo! Good times! According to that report, the Awans had rented their former Washington, D.C. area residence to a family while they departed for parts unknown. After discovery that they had left smashed computer hard drives and other computer equipment at the Lawton, Virginia home, the Awans tried desperately to retrieve them before they were seized by investigators, going so far as to threaten and sue the renters. The contents of the hard drives is unclear, but Imran Awan and his brothers are reported to have provided services as IT vendors for several House Democrats. Is this a story that's going somewhere? My fallback position always seems to be, you can't write this shite. You absolutely can't. And you want to talk about collusion? This is from the House of Collusion. The Democrats over on the left-hand side, and yes, they already want, all the Democrats want to talk about is Jared, and Russia, and Trump. It's just... But you have to ask yourself this also. See, that's why you listen to me here in the Saloon. To hear stuff like this that you're not going to hear on other media venues and channels. Okay, here's another one from Zero Hedge. Now, I enjoy reading Zero Hedge. Tyler Durden writes some interesting stuff. And he writes, just a day after reports emerged that the FBI had seized a number of smashed hard drives. Now, stop. I got about 7 more minutes till the top of the hour. Now stop. Why would you smash hard drives in the first place? Oh, wait. Maybe it's the same reason that you would want to smash laptops on the Democrat side, and that's to make sure that people don't get to access information that you don't want them to know. And yet, that matters not. Do what I call the logical extension, the BZ logical extension, and the reversal, which is this. What do you think would have happened had members of the GOP and IT persons who were under contract to the GOP were attempting to get, and then in fact did, smash laptops so that other persons could not access that information? And then we're trying to threaten people to get to the smashed hard drives because there's obviously information in there that they don't want people to see. Then Gateway Pundit weighed in and said, breaking, former Wasserman Schultz IT staffer Imran Awan arrested at airport while trying to flee U.S. But you see this broadcast far and wide on ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNBC, CNN. Thank God I know my alphabet. No, you really don't see it much, and you're not going to hear it spoken about on CNN. Why is that? That's because they have an agenda, and they can't go on against that agenda. But when you have people that attempted to destroy hard drives, are not all the bells and the whistles and the klaxons going off in your brain? It is unclear what connection these allegations have to the Daily Caller News Foundation's reports of smashed hard drives and laptops, now seized by federal authorities. Stop. They're going to do forensic examinations of these things. If you know anything about an IT forensic examination of items such as this, you may or may not be surprised as to what it is that can be recovered in some situations like this. And if they didn't do a particularly wonderful job, then in fact the FBI may find something of import in those hard drives. An earlier report from the same Daily Caller investigation appeared to show Wasserman Schultz prepared to go to bat against Capitol Police on Awan's behalf, if you remember that. Raising further questions about the nature of the computer equipment, Wasserman Schultz asked Capitol Police Chief Matthew Verderosa to return a seized laptop to her, appearing to threaten consequences if he did not. And I'm sure at this point now, you remember that video because it was out in video and in public. And it went sort of viral. She threatened the chief, the D.C. police chief. And it appeared that he was threatenable. Now, what actually happened to that laptop, I couldn't tell you at this point. But again, that's why you listen to me. Another very important thing came down. Let me see if I can get over to it, because I think I'm going to talk about Trump and Sessions when we come back. And this is something that I think people missed. And I'm going to turn up the volume on this, because I think we've reached a new paradigm. And that's this. Politicians, not just the presidency, other politicians in government have reached the point where there is, in fact, a new paradigm and a new sheriff in town. It looks like the Trump folks took to Periscope about Trump arriving, and the press wasn't there. This is kind of what it sounded like. And in the background, if you're looking at this particular video, you can see Marine One in the background. There's another plane, and they're speaking, and this is broadcast live on Periscope. Now, if you look over here,
and Kellyanne Conway are here as well.
You can see Kellyanne Conway, you can see Scaramucci, and you can see President Trump in the background. This is being broadcast live on Periscope.
Marine One to Air Force One.
And here's Trump transitioning. Now, it goes on like this, and I'm going to turn it down for a little bit. But this is a new paradigm. So I have to ask you, these are people on Trump's team who have gone to Periscope and completely, now in this situation, the press are now the middleman. And what do we know about middlemen? Frequently they get eliminated. Now, if the press has thrown a hissy fit, Mach 1, Model 1, over that, what do you think the press is going to do when, let's say, the Trump team gets kudos about making their own videos and placing them up on social media? This is live. This is happening. This happened today. And you can see it here. Not one press person in sight. When I saw this, the first thing that it said to me is, this is perhaps, and I have to ask you, I'm going to ask you right now, and during the break, think about it. Write something in chat if you're so motivated. Is this the future of government? For better or for worse, social media has changed entirely the way we do business with the press and with news and information. Now we got Marine One. It's starting to take off. You're watching people walk up into the back of Air Force One, which just became Air Force One because the president stepped into it right now. I think we did. I think in that video that very few people pointed out, we're about to see things turned on their heads even more. So I ask you, and come back and chat, and let me know. I think this was a turning point. When you have people on any government team who've decided that they're not going to let the press go, I don't know, pick a place. And they instead cover it themselves, and they broadcast it live on social media, which now is so easy to do. Even Mr. Stupid here learned how to do that. Well, folks, I have to submit to you that maybe things have changed, or they're going to change. So, in conclusion, before we go to the break, I have to ask you, well, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Catholic, stupid.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, welcome back. We up. My God, it's 9:05 on the left coast, and after midnight, the witching hour on the right coast. Lots of people up late, and I have to say, again, thank you to everyone in chat. Thanks to Dan and ACOG and Mary Brockman, White Mamba, Dave Milner, Mike, and all points in between. Thanks for listening, and again, kudos and thanks to Dan Butcher from HP Pundit for his appearing here in the Saloon earlier this evening. I asked the question about media, and that was this. Earlier today, Tuesday, well, it's now Wednesday, if you're on the right coast, and there were people in Trump's organization that were shooting video, a live feed on Periscope, and there were no reporters there. And basically, they were reporting on the fact that President Trump had just landed in Marine One, and now he's transitioning over to Air Force One. Scaramucci was there. Kellyanne Conway was there. A number of faces that are familiar to you. And I said, you know, everybody missed this. For whatever reason, I don't know why, everybody missed this. And the very first thing I thought is this a new paradigm? Is this where we eliminate the middleman? Now, it's interesting in chat because Dave Milner said, as far as the Trump admin is concerned, the press are no longer the middleman. Well, Dave, I think you may have hit on something there. That's the paradigm against which the American, what I call the press, the American media maggots, they're fighting against. They're bleeding numbers, they're bleeding ads, they're bleeding cash, and they're bleeding readers, and they're bleeding eyeballs. Except for the dumpster fire. Now, here's the interesting thing. MSNBC, its numbers are coming up, and I think it's all about, just as Sean and I discussed a couple of days ago, it's about some of the people, and including Rachel Madcow over at MSNBC. People are watching because they want to see the dumpster fire. It's like an accident on the freeway. And we call it rubbernecking on the left coast, and apparently they call it the same on the right coast, is there's an accident. You got to see how heinous it is. What actually happened in that accident? Well, I'm just going to look, and the first thing you think is, thank God it's not me or any of my friends that are in that accident. And it's the same thing with MSNBC. I think the ratings are going up because everyone wants to see, hey, whose trash is getting burned in the dumpster over there? Well, I know. I'll go see. Here's an interesting point, though. Did you notice? When you look at the results, the figures that are coming out, CNN is not gathering all those viewers, all those eyeballs. No, it's MSNBC. And boy, I have to tell you, that abso-fucking-lutely grates in the craw of everybody over at CNN, including our good friend Jeff Immelt, the CEO over there. Let's see. I have a choice now. I want to transition over to some things involving just the absolute raging insanity of leftists. But there are some other articles about that. And, well, people were asking in chat, well, BZ, what do you think? And Dave Milner says dumpster fire TV. Now there's a cable channel name. But I think it's true. Like it or not, I do believe that the paradigm has shifted and the middleman is being pushed aside. And it's all because of social media. Now for Trump, that could be good. He was already pushing in that direction anyway. That was pushback, and the American media hated it. Moreover, they've hated it because they don't have the power and control over Trump that they had over all the other GOP candidates, all the other 16 candidates that fell by the wayside last year. And for the most part, Trump doesn't care. I think he cares a bit. Well, I think he cares a lot. But he enjoys it when he's in control, and the American media maggots hate it. They despise it because they are not in control, and they cannot make him jump like they knew they could have made, say, Jeb Bush jump. Or they could have made Mitt Romney jump, etc. You know what I'm going to do? I've only got 50 more minutes left, and I think I'm going to forego some of these things. I wanted initially to talk about Trump and his little tete-a-tete with Jeff Sessions, and then Trump. I said this long ago, and I'm going to throw it out for the people that are listening live right now, listening in chat, and if you happen to be listening in podcast, fuck it. Let's talk about it right now, because I already brought it up. Trump is having a terrible day or week between himself and Jeff Sessions. It's said that Trump is very irate over Jeff Sessions because he recused himself initially from the investigation of Russia, etc. In that particular regard, I have to go along with Trump. Then most recently, Trump said that he's disappointed in Jeff Sessions because he did not pick up an investigation and specifically state that he was targeting Hillary Rodham Clinton because of the server issues, the emails, etc. But fucking wait. What was it that Donald Trump said at the beginning of his term? Did he not say something similar to, when asked and prodded, so, tell me, President Trump, are you going to go after Hillary Rodham Clinton? Do you remember what his response was? It was, no, not particularly. So, with that in mind, how is it that you can say to Jeff Sessions, who I think is a pretty good guy, but his personality is everything but forceful. You can see it in his innate demeanor, in his voice, etc. He is not a presence. He's a good guy. He's a good man. And don't get me wrong, he's doing a hell of a job with immigration, and he's doing a hell of a job with MS-13 and the various gangs that are up in the Northeast. An excellent job. And as a matter of fact, just because of that, and he hasn't even really tackled the issue very much of sanctuary cities, which I really, maybe I'm a bit impatient. But he seems to be doing a good job, but he's not doing the job that President Trump wants him to do. But my issue with Trump is, good God, sit down with the man, decide what you really want him to do, and then if he doesn't do it, fine. Do whatever you wish. You're the president. But don't give him conflicting messages and give him a chance to succeed. He's doing a pretty damn good job, and I think he wants to continue to do a good job for you right now. That said, I was not a fan of Jeff Sessions. I was a fan for AG of somebody like, I know, I'm going to get a sword through my neck, or, you know, somebody's going to take the pike from Vlad the Impaler and run me through. I frankly would have preferred Giuliani. Well, now there's an issue. There's an article from the New York Post that says Trump may be considering replacing Sessions with Giuliani. So again, I'm going to throw it out to everybody out there that's listening to me right now live, or if you're listening, if you're in the chat room right now. Okay, so question. What does Trump do with Sessions? Does he say, Jeffy, sorry, don't really care for you, never really did care for you, and you're to the curb? And then, if so, it's an if-then equation. If he does that, then who does he choose? New York Post seems to think that Rudy is waiting in the wings. I'm not so sure. And I'm not so sure that I would particularly enjoy seeing Jeff Sessions kicked to the curb. Now, I'm not going to go into this very much right now because, again, I want to transition over to leftists. I think I'm going to pick this up on Thursday. Sackheads is not going to do it. I don't think they're going to go right there. There's an issue with Robert Mueller. And there's a particular video cut or two that I want you to listen to with regard to Robert Mueller and the things that people are discovering about Robert Mueller and what to do with him. Because, again, there are two very disparate arguments about Robert Mueller. Let him go. Let him go. And then the other argument is Trump is saying he's way, way, way out of his bounds. I'll tell you what, let's hold that for Thursday because that's something that I'd like to sink my radio teeth into. Don't really have the time to do it right now. Let's talk about leftists. Let's talk about being a leftist mother. Let's talk about a leftist mother who, for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, it certainly looks like she hates her male children. Yeah, I can't. This is going to be sort of a rather crude summary. But an article came out about a particular leftist mother, and to summarize it up, I can't think of any other way to wrap it up other than to say she was and is attempting to mind-fuck her sons. And at this point, you may be saying, oh my God, BZ, you're continuing to say bad words in your room, and you ought to moderate this. And yeah, maybe someday I will. But what's this all about? It's about a leftist woman and her two teenage sons. It's involving her own family. It's an encapsulation of the situation of people involved close to her. That is to say, she's decided that she's going to sacrifice her own sons to her own philosophy. And wait until you hear this. And she's pissed because her sons are not demonstrating behavior that in her mind is the proper behavior to display. In other words, they're not doing what she attempted to train them to do or not to do. And in fact, it may have created the exact opposite effect. So it started with a Washington Post article back in September of 2016. The headline is this. When I saw this, I thought, oh, where is this going to go? And it's by, okay, this article is by that particular individual, that leftist female. She wrote an article that was published in the Washington Post, the leftist magazine of D.C., by an individual, a woman named Jody Allard. The headline is this: My teen boys are blind to rape culture. Stop. First, you have to agree that there is a rape culture endemic all across the fruited plain. That's another issue for another day. It starts this way. Oh boy, my son said, rolling his eyes. Not rape culture again. We were sitting around the dinner table talking about the news. As soon as I mentioned the Stanford sexual assault case, my sons looked at each other. They knew what was coming. They've been listening to me talk about consent, misogyny, and rape culture since they were tweens. They listened to me then, but they are 16 and 18 now, and they roll their eyes and argue when I talk to them about sexism and misogyny. There's no such thing as rape culture, my other son said. You say everything is about rape culture or sexism. Stop. Do you think his son is correct? She says, I never imagined I would raise boys who would become men like these. Stop. Her sons then were 16 and 18. Add another year, now they're 17 and 19. You think her sons don't read what she writes? You bet your ass they do. And she just said this: I never imagined I would raise boys who would become men like these. That's not positive. Oh, so you need a leftist translation, right? So what does she mean, men like these? That's people that don't automatically buy into and keep a tight grip on the quite one-sided philosophy that she'd attempted to ingrain into their wheelhouses over the years. The indoctrination that she'd started hadn't stuck. Therefore, as far as she's concerned, they're bad boys. Soon to be very bad men. Get that. Bad men. I never imagined I would raise boys who would become men like these. Men who deny rape culture or who turn a blind eye to sexism. Men who tell me I'm being too sensitive or that I don't understand what teenage boys are like. You don't speak out about this stuff, Mom. They tell me with a sigh, it's just not what teenagers do. As far as she's concerned, shame on them for speaking like that. Shame on them for wanting to actually enjoy their young lives and their teens not quivering in abject fear of encountering life thinking that everyone and everything is out to penetrate, hurt, and kill you. It's too uncomfortable to separate themselves from the pack, so they continue to at least dip their toes into toxic masculinity. Allard won't be honest to you and me about this, so you know what? I'm going to be honest for her. I'll do her job for her. What she means has nothing to do with situational toxicity. She means that all masculinity is toxic. There's no other interpretation for it. She'll stand on a platform of victimhood, slitting her wrists in public and readily damning everyone around her, but she won't step into the light of honesty and clarity, two elements that I've said time and again that I highly prize. She continues, my son didn't call out his friend. He didn't remind him that lack of enthusiastic consent means there is no consent. He didn't say a word to him about consent at all, other than to ask the initial question, and that inaction hung heavy in the room between us. My sons, who are good boys and who know all about consent, do not speak out about consent. Not when it's uncomfortable. Not when it might jeopardize their social standing. My sons, who hate hearing about their own privilege, nestle inside it like a blanket and accuse me of making up its existence. There's a transition, and it goes like this, and I've said it before. First, I said it about sexuality and homosexuality. And now it's applicable to every SJW, social justice warrior topic. And the trend goes like this. You have to transition from first tolerance. Then you have to transition to acceptance. And then you have to transition over to advocacy. So now if you're not an advocate for fill-in-the-blank topic by leftists, you're evil and you are now an ist or an ob yourself because you are not an outright advocate. It's no longer acceptable to tolerate. It's no longer okay to accept now if you're not an active advocate for each and every leftist social justice warrior issue. you're going to go to hell. Leftist hell. So you have to be. You're subject to all possible means of belittling, shame, censorship, or even violence, justified as it would be by the superior sense of leftist righteousness. Even in this case, the public, this is astounding. The public shaming and the potential destruction of Alad's, in this case, a leftist woman's, her own children. Children who are not mentally prepared to fight you in a public venue and likely have absolutely no interest in doing so. You're their mother. That's how your sons see you. That's how they see you. First and foremost, your mom. To you, Alad, that makes absolutely no difference. They exist but to be made negative examples of in your world. Your relationship with them, as far as you're concerned, it doesn't mean anything. They are now no more than tools that you apply, Alad, to a particular social justice warrior program with a very specific point. You see them as the problem. You say so clearly, you get to use them. And she writes, the next sentence in the article, my sons are part of the problem. Alad, they'd just rather see you as mom, because that's what kids at that age do. So let me stop again, okay? The following paragraph is very important, and so I had to include it here, and that's this. She writes, Alad writes, I'm a survivor of rape and sexual abuse. My sons know this, like they know I was once a reporter, and I love curries and coffee. But they have never been sexually abused, and they cannot fathom what it's like to stand in a scalding hot shower trying to burn away the touch of a stranger's hands. I've told them why dismantling rape culture is so important to me, but they will never truly understand how survivors feel. That's a powerful statement. That's a powerful paragraph. Jody Alad, I'm sorry for your past. It was obviously an evil act perpetrated by an evil person against you. I know crime. I know evil. I know what it looks like and what it smells like. I know how and why it operates. I've spoken to many a woman like you. I've fought it for 41 years. I suspect that's possibly longer than maybe even she's been on the planet. I didn't Google it to see how old she is, but I wouldn't be surprised. I've investigated sexual assault cases. I've investigated child abuse cases. I've investigated homicides. I'm sorry for your past, but you use your past like a battering ram, and now against your own children, because you feel entitled to do that. Absolutely entitled. As far as you're concerned, they've stepped out of line, so now the gloves are off. I sense something more here, and I think it's very dark, and it's very disturbing. I sense that you really wouldn't mind if your sons experienced something precisely like you did. More on that later. I'm going to come back to that. So in your superior and all-knowing social justice warrior way, you have, Alad, the luxury of being an absolutist. I had no such luxury whatsoever when I investigated these crimes, because on whomever I focused, I had the potential to truly destroy, utterly and with finality. Your current ability to destroy, in fact, pales to my past abilities. I had the power of incarceration and the complete removal of most freedoms whatsoever, to place people into an environment that I'm going to go into again before the end of the show. You, Alad, however, you're under no obligation like that at all. You don't have that responsibility. That's a massive luxury, the likes of which I don't think that you appreciate. I also think that you don't appreciate the truth. Violent crime in the 1990s, when I was active in detectives, was absolutely booming. Since that time, crime and rape trended down markedly. It is only now, since around 2014 or so, right around in there, beginning to trend back up for entirely different reasons than in the 1990s. And rape is not one of the crimes that's trending up like, say, shootings, violent crime, homicides, etc. I'm going to let you all in on a dirty little secret, too, right now, that no one wants to talk about. And I'm going to give it to you listening to me right now, live in the chat room and in podcast. And I'm going to give it to Jody Alad, too. And that's this. Roughly 40% of the rape claims of women investigated by my department in the 1990s were false. Occasionally up to 45, sometimes 50%. I'm going to social justice warrior Hades just for even hinting that, much less saying that in public where it's immured forever. Regrets, guilt, untenable social positions, any number of reasons. But I was told, and we were told in the bureaus, the particular bureaus, by our superiors not to let this cat out of the bag. You mention it to nobody, and further, you take no action whatsoever against those pretenders who wasted our time, wasted my time, forced us and me to spend taxpayer dollars, your dollars, and usually ended up skulking out the doors with lowered heads, and rightly so. I was told it would have had a chilling effect. We were told. You know what? The only chilling effect was upon the women who were true crime victims. False claims denigrated, and in a way, it raped these women a second time. Men didn't do that. Women did that. But this is where Alad crosses a line. And guess what? I'm going to come right back. And please, I'm asking you do too. Please come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Mim from Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds. Join your friends from SHR Media at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 19th through the 22nd for 3 amazing days of liberty-oriented discussion, investment advice, and the Anthem Film Festival. It's our big 10th anniversary, featuring keynote speaker William Shatner and Freedom Fest favorites, including Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Lee Edwards, David Boaz, Doug Casey, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Grover Norquist, Peter Schiff, and many more. Don't miss out. Register at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all-caps code SHR Media.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back. This is the final segment, of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It's Tuesday of the year of our Lord, July 25th, 2017. Some very interesting comments in chat about the issue that I was just discussing regarding Jodi Allen and her decision to say that essentially, and wait for it because it's coming, that her sons are rapists. Are you kidding me? White Mama says, and the rape victims I know didn't report their rapes. And he also says, and very few male rape victims ever report being raped. That's the truth. Let me tell you, I know for a fact during my tenure there were. They didn't want to make any reports whatsoever. Now, I told you before we left that Jodi Allen wrote something that I said crossed the line. That's this. I wanted to believe that sharing my experience with them would make them understand, and even more important, that understanding would breed action, but that's where the disconnect arose. My sons understood as best as teenage boys can, but they aren't willing to sacrifice their own comfort for my sake or for anyone else. When it comes to speaking out against rape culture and questioning their own ideas and behavior, they became angry and defensive. Wait, there's more. Not all men, they remind me, and my guts wrench as my own sons mimic the vitriol of 1,000 online trolls. They remind me, that phrase. Not all men. That phrase. And she says it's trolling to dare to possess the temerity to remind women that not all men are rapists. This is where Aled becomes absolutely unhinged. You revel in your own damage, and you're damaged. In the final paragraph, you don't have to go these places, and you don't have to do these things. You've decided willingly and freely that you're going to. And this is her final paragraph. She says, and in this broken system, anyone who isn't with us is against us, particularly and especially men. Even my own sons, even yours. It's not enough to teach our sons about consent. We have to encourage them to have the courage to speak out against rape culture too. Okay. There's more. Since that article in September of last year, Jodi Allen decided that she's going to double down on the attacks on her sons. She's doubling down on the attacks on her sons, her very own sons. And she wrote a recent July 6th article in rollreboot.com. Let me repeat that. It was an article in rollreboot.com. That's called a fucking clue, okay? That particular website. And now she's writing another article. And she's pointing a finger at her sons. How and why? Well, how about the title? The headline is this. I'm done pretending men are safe, parenthesis, even my sons. She starts it this way. I have two sons. They are strong and compassionate, the kind of boys Other parents are glad to meet when their daughters bring them home for dinner. They're good boys in the ways good boys are, but they are not safe boys. I'm starting to believe there's no such thing. This is the U word, people. This is unhinged. Meaning, let me translate for you if you didn't get it. Meaning, my sons are rapists. They just haven't raped yet. But they will, because they are men. That's exactly what they mean. Don't doubt that for a second. She writes, I wrote an essay in the Washington Post last year during the height of the Brock Turner case about my sons and rape culture. I didn't think it would be controversial when I wrote it. I was sure most parents grappled with raising sons in the midst of rape culture. That's an amazing assumption. Okay, again, not one toe in reality. Okay, I'll wager most parents are not thinking their sons are nothing more than rapists in waiting. Because that's what Jody Allard has just said. As far as she's concerned, her very own sons raised under her roof by her are nothing more than rapists in waiting. One of my sons was hurt by my words, although he never told me so. He doesn't understand why I lumped him and his brother together in my essay. He sees himself as the, quote, good one, the one who's sensitive and thoughtful, and who listens instead of reacts. He doesn't understand that even quiet misogyny is misogyny, and that not all sexists sound like Twitter trolls. He's angry at me now, although he won't admit that either, and his anger led him to... Oh, you know where this is going right now, don't you? Sure you do. Nod your head up and down. He's angry at me now, although he won't admit that either, and his anger led him to conservative websites and YouTube channels, places where he can surround himself with righteous indignation against feminists and tell himself it's ungrateful women like me who are the problem. How absolutely joyous, it must be to come to realize, well, no, how joyous it must be for her own sons to come to realize that your own mother only tolerates you on good days and despises you on bad days and then writes about it. And remember, those conservative websites and YouTube channels do nothing but provide those of dim mind, because that's what she means, a righteous indignation. There's no room for discussion like every other leftist, or for any other kind of viewpoint other than Allard's. Just ask her. I'll wager, Jody Allard, that you well and truly do not really know how your sons truly feel about you. And you may not know that for at least another year, maybe a number of years. But wait, I told you we're going to talk about leftists, and I got 20 more minutes. I may not even be able to get into the rest of this shite, because, trust me, if I don't tonight, I'm going to on Thursday. That's why it's called The Aftermath. There's more buttery goodness, coming out where just not paintbrushes are utilized, but massive rollers. So check this. She writes, I know I'm not supposed to cast an entire sex with a single paintbrush, not all men. I'm sure some readers are thinking and preparing to type or tweet. But if it's impossible for a white person to grow up without adopting racist ideas simply because of the environment in which they live, how can I expect men not to subconsciously absorb at least some degree of sexism? White people aren't safe, and men aren't safe. No matter how much I'd like to assure myself that these things aren't true, at least she said it outright. What she said is this. I'll translate for her to you. 1. All men are rapists. And 2. All caucasoids are racists. Hey, Allard, hold up your hand. Look at it. You know what? You're a Caucasoid too. Guess what? Wow, wait again. That makes her sons, in her mind, the worst of the worst. They are absolutely inherent sexists, rapists, and racists, all in one. My God, woman. How could they have sprung from your liberated loins? The shame, the rush of revulsion that you must feel. Then this surprising bit of honesty on her part when she writes, I'm through wasting my time on people who are more interested in ideas than feelings. And I'm through pretending these people, these men, are safe. Did you hear what I just said? Translated, facts mean nothing. Feelings mean everything. Do you get it? Let me read it again because she finally said it out loud. I'm through wasting my time on people who are more interested in ideas than feelings. Meaning that feelings are more important than facts. Her articles, Jodi Allard's articles, they need to be read. We need to understand well and truly how people like her think and how it absolutely distorts their world and permeates every damn fiber of the being in every second of their lives. Thank God. That's all I can say. Thank God that not all women live in this demented and stilted world that she lives in. So, I'm writing this. I wrote it on the blog, and I'm saying it to her now. I sensed something in your articles, in your philosophies, in your manner, your writings, and I believe it's very, very deeply, deeply disturbing and incredibly dark. You are here, and you exist to make points. Points that, in my opinion, not only involve you, but overwhelm you. I sense that you really wouldn't mind if your sons experienced something on the order of what you did. Let me be blunt. Some days I think you think they should be raped themselves. Up to and until then, they can never understand, which is why in your world, in my opinion, you wouldn't mind if more men were raped. You know, did you know? Were you aware? You get your wish every day. Those are called men's prisons. It's what they do. They're criminals. And they're evil. Evil exists. I'm really sorry that it visited Jodi Allard. All I'm asking her to do is please don't visit evil upon others. And please not your sons. I got 15 minutes. Here's another article. This happened on campus. This is from campusreform.org. Oh, you are going to love this headline. This is by Anthony Gakowski, who is an investigative reporter for campusreform.org. It's a headline that goes like this. Professor, all white people are racist. All men are sexist. A Georgetown University law professor recently declared on social media that all white people are racist and all men are sexist. Preston Mitchum even told Campus Reform that simply being part of any dominant group when it comes to race, gender, sexuality, etc., contributes to the oppression of other groups. Now, I'm looking at a tweet from this guy, at Preston Mitchum. And it says this, in 140 characters, how great is that? Yes, all white people, in caps, all white people are racist. Yes, all, in caps, men are sexist. Yes, all cis, C-I-S, people are transphobic. We have to unpack that. That's the work. You can't make this up. A Georgetown University law professor recently claimed that all white people are racist and all men are sexist. that's the work. And that's what he wrote in that particular tweet. Mitchum frequently vocalizes his views on Twitter, arguing in one recent tweet that everyone has bias, stereotypes, and judgments, no matter who you are. But what makes this racist, transphobic, sexist is when you add power. And he writes in a tweet, everyone has bias, stereotypes, and judgments, just as I wrote. In another tweet, he says, if you're a part, A-P-A-R-T, you're a professor, learn to fucking spell, moron, of any dominant group when it comes to race, gender, sexuality, etc., you contribute to the oppression of groups, period. And so he expressed in another tweet his deep hatred, of course, because where are you going to go next? You're going to go to the police. He expressed his hatred towards police officers in this tweet. And it says, I really, 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 really hate cops, he emphasized. Hate them. The power, the unfettered abuse, the narcissism. Hate them. Georgetown Law School recently hired Mitchum, causing him to boast on Twitter that he doesn't just annoy people online, but now he gets to be a, quote, an adjunct professor annoying people in real life. Well, that's something to seek out, isn't it, to annoy people in real life? Mitchum, expanding on his statements to campus reform, reiterated that any person who is a part of any dominant group when it comes to race, gender, sexuality contributes to the oppression of other groups. And it doesn't matter if they choose to do so consciously, subconsciously, knowingly, unknowingly, or with bad or good intentions. What makes something racist, sexist, transphobic, homophobic, etc. is when power and the ability to effectuate said power is added. He explained, saying, we must stop using this textbook definition of racism because it doesn't take into account real-world experiences of those who are on the receiving end of racism, people of color. What color is this professor? I wonder. Hey, a new film came out recently, didn't it? Haven't seen it yet. Went to go see Valerian, something about 1,000 planets. Save your money. Special effects are great. Absolutely no damn story. But here's something great. You're going to love this. Oh, wait, am I still talking about leftists or movies? Well, I'll let you be the determinant of that. Here's something from the Washington Times, an article. Now, it's about Dunkirk, and this movie by Christopher Nolan just came out. He was the director of Interstellar and one of the big Batman movies, if I'm not mistaken. Dunkirk came out, and it's gotten a lot of good reviews. However, there's a review that came out in USA Today. Now, this is an author at the Washington Times writing about that particular article. And the headline, oh, for fuck's sake, you knew this was coming, right? Didn't you? What have I told you? Oh, you're going to love this. If you like the first two, you're going to love this. Here's the headline. Dunkirk review in USA Today warns, quote, no lead actors of color in World War II inspired film. Reviewer says lack of women and minorities may, quote, rub some the wrong way. Digest that for a moment, if you will. A USA Today review of Dunkirk is under increased scrutiny from industry peers for warning viewers that it lacks women and minorities. Social media ridicule followed the publishing of writer Brian Truitt's reaction to director Christopher Nolan's latest film, a World War II tale about Allied soldiers attempting to survive while pinned down by German adversaries in World War II. The columnist gave the film a glowing review while saying that its lack of diversity just may rub some people the wrong way. The trio of timelines can be jarring as you figure out how they all fit And the fact that there are only a couple of women and no lead actors of color may rub some the wrong way, Mr. Truitt wrote Monday. Still, Nolan's feat is undeniable. He made an immersive war movie that celebrates blah, 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 blah. And there's a guy in National Review Online named C.W. Cook who wrote, it was highly problematic that the British Expeditionary Force and the French Army stranded such a monochrome crew. Again. Historical Alzheimer's. You can't write this. This is what passes for acceptable journalism for people that are fucking brain dead, read by people who are fucking brain dead. Oh, but wait, there's Twitter. I wrote on Twitter. I tried to tweet about, earlier today, that particular incident with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the guy from Pakistan who was arrested by the FBI. When I tried to do that on Twitter, Twitter told me, and I've got about negative 20 followers, not more than a handful, just a couple of thousand, as opposed to, somebody with 1 million. And Twitter wouldn't let me make that tweet. It said, you're going to love this, I'm spam. Now, yes, I love Monty Python with the best of them, and that was a wonderful skit they did. But as far as Twitter's concerned, in the historical Alzheimer's category, old BZ right here is nothing but spam because they didn't like the topic. Facts. Fuck them. They can go to hell. Here's another great article. And if you loved Lindsey Graham like I love Lindsey Graham, if you love Lindsey like I love Lindsey, oh, what a Graham, you're going to like this. The article. And I've got Lindsey Graham is asking a question, and boy, Lindsey, I got an answer for you. This is, let's see, I got about another 5 minutes left. This is, the headline says, Lindsey Graham, vote me out if you oppose amnesty and outsourcing. My first thought, yeah, Lindsey, you betcha. That's a can-do situation. Hey, dude, just do the common thing. You and John get back together. And I'm glad John is feeling better, and I'm glad John got back into the Senate, and he's a trooper, and I admire his service. But you know what? You and John make a great pair together. Just do us all a favor. I've said this for years. Just be honest. Be clear. I value honesty and clarity. Do what John McCain wanted to do about 10 years ago anyway, and was this close to doing, changing his R to a D. Just change John and Lindsey. Change your R's to D's and be done with it. Just be honest. Be clear. I value those things. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham is urging South Carolinians to vote against him when they disagree with his support for a national amnesty, plus a greater inflow of foreign workers to take American jobs. Anybody from South Carolina listening to this right now, live or in podcast, I say this. Take old Lindsey up on it. To the people who object to this, I don't want you to vote for me because I cannot serve you well, he said in a Capitol Hill press conference July 20th. He said, you know what, the key here is to be fair to the 11 million illegal immigrants, which he didn't say, he didn't call them illegal immigrants, starting with the 2 million younger illegal dreamers, but convince people we're going to do what our great friend, President Ronald Reagan, was not able to do. We're going to actually secure the border, control who gets a job, and increase legal immigration so foreign people don't have to cheat by illegally immigrating. I've stopped letting 30% of the people who are mad about immigration determine how I behave. To those who feel like you should deport younger illegals, boy, I couldn't disagree with you more. To President Trump, you're going to have to make a decision. The campaign is over. To the Republican Party, who are we now? What do we believe? When they write the history of these times, I'm going to be with these kids. And so I ask the Republican Party, anyone who identifies with the Republican Party, people who are registered Republicans, and I am not, I am an independent, that hackneyed quote, the Republican Party left me. Well, as a matter of fact, the Republican Party left me their feet on fire. So to all of those people in the Republican Party who think this is the right thing to do, there's another year looming, and it's called 2018. And if you, GOP, if you think this is the right thing to do, well, I think you just may be very surprised.
I have come here.
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, wait another day. You can find me on Twitter at bzep and now on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. And like I say, if you wait about another day, you can reach me at the new email address bz@shrmedia.com.
Folks that I know.
My original music is by Possessed Tranquility at ReverbNation.com.
They'll be happy to know.
Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Tiaras by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal Kettle One KC-135 refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for being in chat. Thanks for interacting. God bless. Take care. You be safe. Come back Thursday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night.